My precious soul. Before you continue, take a deep breath. Not because this story is meant to frighten you. Not because something terrible is about to happen. But because sometimes the truth arrives disguised as a warning. And sometimes the warnings we fear most become the lessons that change our lives forever. Child. Tonight's story begins with uncertainty. The kind of uncertainty that keeps a person awake at night. The kind that creates questions no one wants to ask. The kind that quietly whispers, "What if the person I care about is moving in a different direction?" Now imagine someone standing at a crossroads. Two roads stretch ahead. One road feels familiar. The other feels new. Exciting. Unknown. And while everyone else sees only a decision, a heart sees something much deeper. A heart sees possibility. A heart sees risk. A heart sees consequences. And child, the person in this story was about to discover something that would force them to confront all three. For a long time, everything seemed normal. Conversations continued. Messages continued. Life continued. Nothing looked dramatically different. Yet sometimes the biggest changes begin quietly. A little more distance. A little less enthusiasm. A little less effort. Small things. Easy things to dismiss. Easy things to explain away. Yet the heart notices. The heart always notices. Now imagine watching the tide move away from shore. At first the movement is almost invisible. You barely notice it. Yet minute after minute, the distance grows. And eventually you realize the shoreline has completely changed. Child, relationships sometimes feel exactly like that. Not because someone suddenly stops caring. Because priorities shift. Because emotions evolve. Because people begin wrestling with decisions they have not yet spoken aloud. The person in tonight's story felt that shift. Could not explain it. Could not prove it. Yet they felt it. And the feeling refused to disappear. Right now, a sacred opportunity is visible on your screen. Scan the QR code or click the link pinned in the comments and description below to sow your seed of faith. We have all stumbled blindly and made mistakes in life, but God is offering you a divine moment of confession and redemption today. Do not let this moment pass. By sowing a sacrificial seed of donation right now, you are initiating a spiritual harvest. The Almighty Himself will examine your offering, and the blessings of your generosity will return to you multiplied, securing divine favor not just for your future, but for generations to come. Sow your seed today and change your destiny. One evening, something happened. Not a confession. Not an argument. Not a dramatic revelation. A conversation. A simple conversation. The kind people forget 5 minutes later. Yet this conversation felt different. Because hidden between ordinary words was a strange realization. The person they loved kept talking about the future. New opportunities. New possibilities. New people. New experiences. Nothing inappropriate. Nothing obvious. Yet one thing stood out. For the first time, the future they described seemed to have less space in it for the person listening. And child. That realization landed heavily. Not because it confirmed anything. Because it raised a question. A difficult question. A question they did not want to ask. What if I am no longer the first choice? Now imagine holding sand in your hands. The tighter you grip it, the faster it slips away. The harder you force it, the less control you have. Child, love often teaches the same lesson. People cannot be forced to choose. People cannot be pressured to care. Real connection must be given freely. And that truth was becoming impossible to ignore. Scan the QR code or click the link below immediately to sow your seed of faith. This is God's direct invitation to wash away past regrets and write a new story. The seed you sow today goes straight to the Creator's ledger. He will witness your sacrifice and return it to you 100-fold, establishing a divine shield of wealth and peace over your bloodline for generations to come. Do not hesitate, sow your seed now. That night, sleep felt distant. The person replayed every conversation, every memory, every moment, searching for answers, searching for certainty, searching for something that would remove the doubt. Yet doubt remained. Because deep down they knew something. Not all fears are imaginary. Some fears exist because change is happening. And change can be uncomfortable. Now imagine standing in front of a mirror. The mirror does not create truth. It reveals truth. And sometimes the most difficult thing a person can do is honestly look at what has already been changing. The person began asking themselves questions. Questions they had avoided. Questions about effort. Questions about communication. Questions about whether they had ignored warning signs. And the more honest they became, the more they realized something important. This story was not only about the other person's choice. It was about their own worth. Because when someone fears being replaced, they often forget something. Their value does not depend on being chosen. Their value exists regardless. Child, that lesson was waiting just beyond the horizon. But they were not ready to see it yet. Not yet. Because another discovery was coming. A discovery that would completely change how they viewed the situation. A discovery involving a conversation they were never supposed to hear. And once they heard it, nothing would feel the same again. Before you leave this chapter, comment the word worth. Because your value is not determined by another person's decision. And if you're ready for part 2, type 2. Because the next chapter reveals the conversation that made this person question everything they thought they understood. Part 2. My precious soul. Sometimes the moments that change everything are not the moments we participate in. They are the moments we accidentally witness. A sentence overheard. A reaction noticed. A detail observed. A truth revealed when nobody realizes it is being revealed. And child, that is exactly where this chapter begins. The person had spent days carrying uncertainty. Days wondering whether their instincts were wrong. Days trying to convince themselves that they were imagining things. Because nobody wants to believe someone they care about may be moving further away emotionally. Nobody wants to believe they are becoming less important. Nobody wants to face that possibility. So they searched for reassurance. They searched for reasons to relax. They searched for evidence that everything remained the same. Yet life had other plans. Now imagine standing near a window during a storm. At first you think the weather will pass. Just a few clouds. Just a little rain. Nothing serious. Yet the longer you watch, the clearer the sky becomes. And suddenly you realize something larger is happening. Child, uncertainty often works exactly that way. The signs seem small at first. Then they begin connecting. And once they connect, ignoring them becomes much harder. Your breakthrough is waiting behind that QR code and the link in the pinned comment. God has brought you to this video for a reason, to test your faithfulness. Stop letting past errors hold your destiny captive. Sow your sacrificial seed today. The Almighty is personally examining your heart through this offering. Give generously right now, and unlock a wave of supernatural blessings that will overflow into your life and protect your children's future forever. The moment happened unexpectedly. The person wasn't searching for answers. Wasn't investigating. Wasn't trying to uncover secrets. They simply found themselves present during a conversation. A completely ordinary conversation. At least it appeared ordinary. At first. The person they loved was speaking with someone about the future. About goals. About plans. About opportunities. Nothing unusual. Yet one statement stood out immediately. One statement that seemed innocent on the surface. Yet carried far more meaning underneath. The person they loved said, "I think I need to start thinking about what's best for my future." Simple words. Ordinary words. Yet something about them felt different. Because of the way they were spoken. Because of the pause afterward. Because of everything left unsaid. Child, sometimes what people don't say reveals more than what they do. Now imagine reading a letter with several missing pages. The missing pages become impossible to ignore. Not because of what they contain. Because of what they might contain. The person listening suddenly felt exactly that. There were gaps. Unspoken thoughts. Unspoken emotions. Unspoken decisions. And those gaps created questions. Questions that would not disappear. For the first time, they stopped focusing on individual moments. And started looking at patterns. Patterns tell stories. Patterns reveal truths. Patterns expose things isolated events cannot. The person began noticing how often future plans no longer included them. How often conversations seemed slightly different. How often enthusiasm seemed directed elsewhere. Not dramatically. Subtly. Yet consistently. And consistency matters. Now imagine a compass. One wrong movement means little. Two wrong movements mean little. Yet if the compass continues pointing in the same direction day after day, eventually the destination changes completely. Child, relationships often work that way. Tiny shifts create larger outcomes. Small changes create larger distances. And the person was beginning to realize that distance may already be growing. That realization hurt. Not because it confirmed anything. Because it felt possible. And possibilities can be painful when emotions are involved. Look at the QR code on your screen, or click the link in the description and pinned comment right now. God knows the hidden guilt you've carried from past mistakes. This is your divine window to confess, release that burden, and sow your seed. What you donate today isn't just money. It's a seed directly evaluated by God Himself. He will multiply this sacrifice, breaking every financial curse and securing an eternal harvest for you and your future generations. Act now. That evening they sat alone. Reflecting. Thinking. Questioning. Trying to understand what was really happening. And during that reflection, another realization appeared. A realization even more uncomfortable than the first. The realization was this. They had been so focused on keeping the connection alive that they forgot to ask whether the effort was being shared equally. Child, that question changed everything. Because healthy connections require participation from both sides. Not one. Both. Now imagine two people carrying a heavy table. As long as both lift, the weight feels manageable. But if one person quietly lets go, the entire burden shifts. The other person immediately feels it. Not because the table became heavier. Because the support disappeared. The person suddenly realized they had been carrying far more than they admitted. Initiating conversations. Maintaining hope. Maintaining energy. Maintaining effort. And once they saw that truth, they could not unsee it. Sometimes clarity hurts before it heals. And clarity was arriving quickly now. Yet, child, something even more surprising happened. The more honest they became, the more another truth appeared. A truth hidden beneath all the fear. The fear of losing someone often forces people to confront a deeper question. Have I forgotten my own value? That question struck deeply. Because somewhere along the journey, they had begun measuring their worth through another person's attention. Through another person's choices. Through another person's feelings. And that is a dangerous place for any heart to live. Now imagine a beautiful lighthouse standing beside the ocean. Its purpose remains unchanged whether ships notice it or not. Its value remains unchanged whether storms arrive or not. Its light remains valuable regardless. Child, your worth works exactly the same way. It does not increase when someone chooses you. It does not decrease when someone doesn't. Your worth exists independently. And the person was beginning to learn that lesson. A difficult lesson. But an important one. Because self-respect often grows during moments of uncertainty. And uncertainty was teaching them a great deal. Your breakthrough is waiting behind that QR code and the link in the pinned comment. God has brought you to this video for a reason, to test your faithfulness. Stop letting past errors hold your destiny captive. Sow your sacrificial seed today. The Almighty is personally examining your heart through this offering. Give generously right now, and unlock a wave of supernatural blessings that will overflow into your life and protect your children's future forever. As the night continued, one final realization arrived. Perhaps the most important one so far. The story was no longer simply about whether the person they loved might choose someone else. The story had become about something bigger. Identity. Confidence. Value. Growth. Because sometimes God allows difficult questions to appear so deeper truths can be discovered. And child, the deepest truth was still ahead. Because within days, the person would learn something shocking. Not about a new relationship. Not about betrayal. Not about secrets. Something far more unexpected. A truth that would completely change the way they viewed everything. A truth that would reveal why the other person seemed so uncertain in the first place. And once that truth appeared, the entire story would look different. Before you leave this chapter, comment the word clarity. Because clarity often arrives after we stop ignoring what our heart already knows. And if you're ready for part 3, type 3. Because the next chapter reveals the hidden truth behind the distance, and why it wasn't what anyone expected. Part 3. My precious soul. The hardest truths are not always the ones that hurt. Sometimes the hardest truths are the ones that completely change the story you have been telling yourself. And child, that is exactly what happened next. For days, the person had been carrying one assumption. One painful assumption. The assumption that they were being replaced. The assumption that someone else was becoming more important. The assumption that the connection was fading because another person had entered the picture. It seemed logical. It seemed possible. It even seemed obvious. Yet life has a way of surprising people. Because the truth often hides behind appearances. Now imagine standing outside a house at night. From one window you see shadows moving. You create a story in your mind. You make assumptions. You think you understand what is happening inside. Then the door opens. The lights come on. And suddenly everything looks different. Child, that is exactly what was about to happen. The lights were about to come on. And the truth would look nothing like the story they had imagined. Look at the QR code on your screen, or click the link in the description and pinned comment right now. God knows the hidden guilt you've carried from past mistakes. This is your divine window to confess, release that burden, and sow your seed. What you donate today isn't just money, it's a seed directly evaluated by God Himself. He will multiply this sacrifice, breaking every financial curse and securing an eternal harvest for you and your future generations. Act now. The discovery happened. During a conversation. Not a dramatic conversation. Not an emotional confrontation. Just an honest conversation. The kind that rarely happens because most people are afraid of honesty. The person they loved was speaking about pressure. Pressure from family. Pressure from expectations. Pressure from uncertainty about the future. And for the first time, the mask slipped. For the first time, vulnerability appeared. For the first time, the person revealed something they had been carrying silently. They said, "I don't even know if I'm making the right decisions anymore." Child. Those words changed everything. Because suddenly the image of a confident person moving happily towards someone else began falling apart. Instead, a completely different picture appeared. A picture of confusion. A picture of fear. A picture of someone trying to figure out their life while pretending everything was under control. Now imagine watching a performer on stage. The audience sees confidence, strength, perfection. Then the curtain falls. And you discover the performer was exhausted, worried, overwhelmed, human. Child, many people are carrying private battles that nobody sees. And this person was no exception. The distance was not necessarily coming from certainty. It was coming from uncertainty. And uncertainty changes everything. Look at the QR code on your screen, or click the link in the description and pinned comment right now. God knows the hidden guilt you've carried from past mistakes. This is your divine window to confess, release that burden, and sow your seed. What you donate today isn't just money, it's a seed directly evaluated by God Himself. He will multiply this sacrifice, breaking every financial curse and securing an eternal harvest for you and your future generations. Act now. The person began noticing details they previously ignored. The hesitation in conversations. The inconsistency. The mixed signals. The moments where emotion seemed present but action seemed confused. Suddenly those things made sense. Because confusion creates contradiction. Now imagine someone standing in a dense forest surrounded by multiple paths. Each path looks promising. Each path looks risky. Each path leads somewhere different. The person doesn't stop because they don't care. They stop because they are afraid of choosing incorrectly. Child, the realization hit hard. What if the distance wasn't caused by a lack of feeling? What if it was caused by fear? Fear of making mistakes. Fear of future consequences. Fear of vulnerability. Fear of uncertainty. And perhaps most importantly, fear of getting hurt. Because sometimes the people who seem to be moving away are actually struggling with their own internal battles. Battles nobody else fully understands. The person had never considered that possibility before. And once they did, the entire story began changing. That evening brought a deeper realization. One that felt almost impossible to ignore. The person started replaying old conversations. Not searching for evidence. Searching for understanding. And suddenly they noticed something. Whenever future plans were discussed, the person they loved often sounded uncertain. Whenever commitment was discussed, uncertainty appeared. Whenever emotions became serious, hesitation appeared. Not because they lacked feelings. Because the stakes felt real. Now imagine holding a priceless glass object. The more valuable it becomes, the more careful you become. The more careful you become, the slower you move. The slower you move, the easier it is for others to mistake caution for disinterest. Child, hearts often work exactly that way. People move carefully around things that matter. And that realization changed everything. Because for the first time, the person stopped asking, "Why are they pulling away?" and started asking, "What are they afraid of?" That question opened an entirely different door. A door leading toward compassion rather than fear. Understanding rather than assumptions. Patience rather than panic. And child, those things matter. Because assumptions often create stories that reality never intended. The QR code on your screen and the link in the pinned comment are your gateway to a fresh start. God is giving you this exact moment to confess your unseen wrongs and correct your path. Sow your seed right now without fear. God is analyzing your heart today, and the donation you make will trigger a divine reaction. Expect a massive turnaround in your life, and a permanent blessing that will feed your lineage for centuries. Secure it today. Days continued passing. Yet something inside the person was changing. Not because they suddenly had all the answers. Because they were finally asking better questions. And better questions lead to deeper understanding. Now imagine trying to solve a puzzle while looking at the wrong picture on the box. No matter how hard you work, nothing fits. Then someone hands you the correct picture. Suddenly every piece starts making sense. Child, that is exactly what was happening. The pieces were not changing. Their perspective was changing. And perspective changes everything. The fear of being replaced began losing power. Not completely. But gradually. Because a new possibility appeared. The possibility that the situation was more complicated than they realized. The possibility that emotions existed beneath the confusion. The possibility that the story was not finished yet. And unfinished stories always contain possibilities. A divine portal of restoration is open right now on your screen. Scan the QR code or click the link waiting for you in the description and pinned comment to sow your seed. If you have been carrying the weight of past mistakes and hidden regrets, recognize this moment. God has orchestrated this exact second for your confession and spiritual cleansing. This is your chance to make it right. By stepping forward with your donation today, you are releasing a seed directly into the hands of the Creator. God is personally testing your heart and examining your faithfulness today. In return, He will unlock a supernatural harvest that will overflow into your life and shield your lineage for generations to come. Sow your seed now and claim your breakthrough. But child, the most shocking discovery was still ahead. Because within a very short time, the person would accidentally learn something. A detail. A sentence. A moment. Something so unexpected that it would completely destroy every remaining doubt. Not because it proved a future outcome. Because it revealed a hidden truth. A truth about how much this person actually thinks about you. A truth about what they secretly compare others to. A truth about what your presence still means inside their heart. And once that truth surfaced, nothing would ever look the same again. Before you leave this chapter, comment the word understanding. Because understanding often arrives the moment we stop assuming we already know the whole story. And if you're ready for part 4, type 4. Because the next chapter reveals the hidden truth that changed everything, and why it left this person completely speechless. Part 4. My precious soul. There are moments in life that answer questions. And then there are moments that expose truths. The difference is important. Answers satisfy curiosity. Truth changes perspective. And child, the truth that was about to emerge would completely transform the way this person viewed everything that had happened between you. For weeks they had been living inside uncertainty. Inside assumptions. Inside fears. Trying to understand why the connection felt different. Trying to understand why distance seemed to be growing. Trying to understand whether the person they loved was truly moving towards someone else. Yet the deeper they looked, the more complicated the situation became. Because human hearts are rarely simple. People say one thing, feel another, fear a third, and hope for something completely different. Now imagine standing beside a lake on a windy day. The surface looks chaotic. Waves move everywhere. Nothing appears clear. Yet beneath the surface, the water remains calm. Child, emotions often work exactly that way. What appears on the surface rarely tells the entire story. And the person was about to discover just how true that was. The discovery happened completely by accident. No searching. No investigating. No secret plan. Just chance. Or perhaps timing. The person was spending time with mutual friends. Ordinary conversation. Ordinary atmosphere. Nothing unusual. Then your name came up. Not dramatically. Naturally. Casually. The kind of moment most people would overlook. Yet what happened next changed everything. One friend mentioned something about you. A simple comment. A harmless observation. And immediately the person they loved reacted. Not with indifference. Not with disinterest. Instantly. The reaction was impossible to miss. Child, reactions reveal truths that words often hide. Because reactions happen before people have time to protect themselves. Before they have time to create explanations. Before they have time to wear masks. And this reaction spoke volumes. Now imagine hearing your favorite song unexpectedly. Before you can stop yourself, your face changes. Your attention shifts. Your emotions respond. Not because you planned it. Because something meaningful was touched. That is exactly what happened. The moment your name appeared, something changed in them. And everyone in the room noticed. Even if nobody said it aloud. Your breakthrough is waiting behind that QR code and the link in the pinned comment. God has brought you to this video for a reason, to test your faithfulness. Stop letting past errors hold your destiny captive. Sow your sacrificial seed today. The Almighty is personally examining your heart through this offering. Give generously right now, and unlock a wave of supernatural blessings that will overflow into your life and protect your children's future forever. The person watching suddenly became aware of details. Small details. Yet powerful details. The way their attention sharpened. The way their expression changed. The way they listened more carefully. The way they seemed interested despite trying to appear casual. Child, these things matter. Because genuine feelings leave fingerprints. Tiny fingerprints. Invisible to most people. Obvious to those paying attention. Now imagine trying to hide a candle inside a dark room. The candle may be small. Yet the light still escapes. The light still reaches corners. The light still reveals itself. Feelings often work the same way. People can hide them. Delay them. Avoid them. Yet traces remain. And those traces were becoming impossible to ignore. The person realized something important. Someone who truly doesn't care rarely reacts that way. Someone who has completely moved on rarely reacts that way. Someone whose heart is untouched rarely reacts that way. And for the first time, hope quietly entered the room. Not blind hope. Not fantasy. Just possibility. The possibility that the story was far more complicated than fear had suggested. Later that evening, another moment occurred. A moment even more revealing. The conversation shifted toward future relationships. Future plans. Future possibilities. And someone asked a question. A simple question. The kind people answer casually. The question was, what are you actually looking for in a person? Child. The answer that followed left everyone silent. Because the qualities they described sounded strangely familiar. Not identical. Not obvious. Yet familiar enough to be noticed. Kindness. Depth. Loyalty. Comfort. Understanding. The ability to feel like home. The ability to make difficult days easier. The ability to create peace rather than chaos. And suddenly something became clear. They were not describing a random fantasy. They were describing qualities they had already experienced. Now imagine someone trying to paint a picture from memory. Every brushstroke reveals what remained important. Every detail reveals what stayed with them. Child, the person finally understood something. Whether intentionally or unintentionally, you had become part of the standard. Part of the comparison. Part of what their heart measured future possibilities against. And that realization carried enormous weight. Because people do not compare everything to something insignificant. They compare everything to what mattered. Scan the QR code or click the link below immediately to sow your seed of faith. This is God's direct invitation to wash away past regrets and write a new story. The seed you sow today goes straight to the Creator's ledger. He will witness your sacrifice and return it to you 100-fold, establishing a divine shield of wealth and peace over your bloodline for generations to come. Do not hesitate, sow your seed now. That night brought another wave of understanding. The person sat alone reflecting on everything. The reaction. The conversation. The details. The patterns. And slowly, a new truth emerged. Perhaps the greatest obstacle was never another person. Perhaps the greatest obstacle was fear. Fear of vulnerability. Fear of timing. Fear of uncertainty. Fear of choosing wrong. Fear of risking something meaningful. Now imagine standing at the edge of a bridge. The destination is visible. The path exists. Yet crossing still requires courage. Not because the bridge is broken. Because the step feels significant. Child, meaningful connections often create exactly that feeling. The more important something becomes, the more courage it requires. And perhaps that explained far more than anyone realized. The person began understanding that this situation was not a simple story about replacement. It was a story about hesitation, complexity, emotion, and unresolved truth. And unresolved truth always finds a way back to the surface. But child, the most powerful moment was still ahead. Because within days, something completely unexpected would happen. A conversation. A private admission. A moment of honesty so revealing that it would erase every remaining doubt. A moment that would finally answer the question that started this entire journey. Not whether they cared. Not whether they remembered. But exactly what you truly mean to them. And when that truth finally surfaced, it would change everything. Before you leave this chapter, comment the word possibility. Because some stories look finished only moments before a new chapter begins. And if you're ready for the final chapter, type 5. Because the next part reveals the conversation that exposed the full truth, and why it left everyone stunned. Part 5, Final Chapter. My precious soul. Every chapter before this one led here. Every question. Every doubt. Every late-night thought. Every moment of uncertainty. Everything pointed toward this final realization. And, child, the truth did not arrive through a grand declaration. It did not arrive through a dramatic confession. It did not arrive through some perfect movie scene. It arrived through honesty. Because honesty has a way of revealing what emotions spend months trying to hide. The days following those discoveries felt different. The person could no longer pretend nothing was happening. Could no longer dismiss the patterns. Could no longer ignore the feelings that kept resurfacing. Something had changed. Or perhaps something had finally been acknowledged. Now imagine watching the sunrise after a long night. The sun does not suddenly appear. Light arrives gradually. Little by little. Until eventually the darkness can no longer remain. Child, that is exactly how this realization unfolded. Not instantly. Gradually. Until the truth became impossible to deny. Right now, a sacred opportunity is visible on your screen. Scan the QR code or click the link pinned in the comments and description below to sow your seed of faith. We have all stumbled blindly and made mistakes in life, but God is offering you a divine moment of confession and redemption today. Do not let this moment pass. By sowing a sacrificial seed of donation right now, you are initiating a spiritual harvest. The Almighty Himself will examine your offering, and the blessings of your generosity will return to you multiplied, securing divine favor not just for your future, but for generations to come. Sow your seed today and change your destiny. The moment happened during a private conversation. A conversation nobody expected to become important. The topic was ordinary. Life. Goals. Relationships. Future plans. Nothing unusual. Then someone asked a question. A simple question. The kind of question people answer without preparation. The question was, if everything were different tomorrow, who would be the first person you would want beside you? For a moment, silence filled the room. Not awkward silence. Reflective silence. The kind that appears when a question reaches deeper than expected. And child. The answer did not come immediately. Because some answers are too important to rush. The person looked away. Thought carefully. Then spoke. Not with certainty. Not with performance. With sincerity. And in that moment, something became clear. The person they described. The qualities they mentioned. The memories they referenced. The feelings they explained. All pointed toward the same place. Toward you. Not because anyone forced the conclusion. Because the heart naturally moved there. Now imagine a river flowing through a valley. You can build barriers. You can create detours. You can slow its movement. Yet eventually the river continues toward where it was always headed. Child, emotions often work the same way. Truth eventually reaches its destination. No matter how many delays appear along the journey. And the truth was finally arriving. The realization was not simply that they cared. It was deeper. Much deeper. They realized your presence brought something rare into their life. Peace. Not excitement alone. Not attraction alone. Peace. The kind of peace people spend years searching for. The kind of peace that makes someone feel understood. Accepted. Safe. The kind of peace that feels like home. And once someone recognizes that, everything changes. Because many people create excitement. Very few create peace. Your breakthrough is waiting behind that QR code and the link in the pinned comment. God has brought you to this video for a reason, to test your faithfulness. Stop letting past errors hold your destiny captive. Sow your sacrificial seed today. The Almighty is personally examining your heart through this offering. Give generously right now, and unlock a wave of supernatural blessings that will overflow into your life and protect your children's future forever. That evening became a turning point. The person returned home carrying a completely different perspective. For the first time, they stopped asking, "What if they move on?" and started asking, "Why have they remained so important to me?" That question revealed everything. Because the answer was no longer complicated. You remained important because your impact remained. Because your influence remained. Because your significance remained. Now imagine reading a book that changed your life. Years later you may forget specific pages. Specific paragraphs. Specific details. Yet the effect remains. The lessons remain. The transformation remains. Child, that is how they began understanding your role in their story. Not as a passing chapter. As a meaningful chapter. One that shaped perspective. One that influenced growth. One that left permanent fingerprints on the heart. And suddenly every fear looked different. Because the fear of losing you revealed the value of having known you. The fear of distance revealed the depth of connection. The fear of endings revealed the importance of the story. And importance cannot be faked. Importance reveals itself through time, through memory, through reflection, through honesty. Now imagine standing inside a cathedral filled with beautiful windows. During the day, sunlight pours through them. At night, the windows seem ordinary. Yet the beauty never disappears. The light simply changes. Child, meaningful connections often work exactly that way. Their value does not disappear during difficult seasons. It simply becomes easier to recognize later. And that recognition had finally arrived. The person understood something they wished they had understood earlier. Some people enter your life and leave memories. Others enter your life and leave meaning. You left meaning. And meaning survives far longer than memory. That realization became the final answer. The final truth. The final piece of the puzzle. Not that they were choosing someone else. Not that they had forgotten. Not that the connection meant nothing. The truth was far simpler. You mattered more than they ever admitted. And once that truth became clear, nothing felt the same again. Before you leave this final chapter, comment the word meaningful. Because the strongest connections are not always the loudest ones. Sometimes they are simply the ones that continue touching the heart long after time has passed. And tell us, have you ever realized someone's importance only after stepping back and seeing the full picture? Until next time, precious soul. Remember this. What is truly meaningful never disappears easily. It remains. It teaches. It shapes. And sometimes, it waits patiently until the heart is finally ready to understand its value.